Something's going on in California. Fire chiefs are getting fired. Ironic. This one had the thumbnail of the lady who was in charge of that whole disaster, but cut the funding of the fire department and then fled the country on a vacation. Nothing more evil than a vacation. Let's figure out what's going on. Give them a like and subscribe if you like Decoy Voice.
After the Pacific Palisades fire flattened entire communities
Oh,
in Los
that's
Angeles,
depressing to
residents
see.
had their homes
That's really
burglarized
unfortunate
while they're
and
still locked
avoidable.
out of their neighborhoods. And shortly after, their streets were completely covered by mudslides.
Ugh. I didn't hear about the mudslides. What happened with the mudslides? Did the mudslides put out the fire? Was that God?
As other residents found that their insurance plans were nearly doubling overnight, only to discover later the LA Fire Department could have done much more to prevent the destruction. These
Like having water.
wildfires were a tragedy all by themselves, but it really seems like every single thing you learn about them next makes them exponentially worse. As I don't lean into the conspiracies that the politicians themselves started these fires on purpose, I just don't think these fires would have been possible without their sheer negligence / incompetence. And anybody
Amen.
that would willingly vote for them again is literally playing with fire, just hoping their home won't be next. As remember, when Los Angeles caught on fire, Mayor Karen Bass was out partying in Ghana, as she initially didn't know how to react when the journalists would question her about it, only for her to later state she didn't regret going.
Looking back, would you have taken that trip
Of course she would later state that after everything had passed.
overseas?
You know, I am going to focus today
But please,
on
if-
what we know.
But now, she wants an investigation as to why she went to Ghana.
Go to Ghana, which I know you've said was a mistake now. But I just am curious on the thought process behind it.
Right.
Because we know that there was warnings about the weather before you went, and you still went. What was the thought process behind going to Ghana?
So let me just tell you a couple of things. First of all, when the White House called and asked me if I would represent the president, I said yes. It was going to be a very, very short trip, over a weekend and 2 business days. We need to look at everything about the preparation and all of that for the fires, because I think when we evaluate that, we will find that although there were warnings that I frankly wasn't aware of, although
Okay, the news reported on all the poor planning for that in advance. There were warnings. Everyone knew. Trump was on Joe Rogan talking about this exact issue way before it happened. There were warnings. She knew. She didn't care. That's why she cut the funding for the fire department. Besides, the whole thing is California is a dry, hot area. There has been fires before, but people before her took proper planning. There were controlled fires to reduce brush so it wouldn't spread. There was water that the fire department could have used in the tanks. Not on her watch. Suspicious, huh?
though there were warnings, I think our preparation wasn't what it typically
Oh, there was a
is.
long history of this exact
I
thing.
know we were talking about it on the news. A lot of people were talking
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
problems,
they were.
warning that this was going to be a huge
So
deal.
when I talked about it with the fire chief, what she said is that we have warnings of Santa Ana winds a lot, but predicting this, and you saw,
That was predicting it. We have warnings of Santa Ana winds that blows fire in directions, feeds fire oxygen so it can spread.
from the city, from the county, that level of
That was
preparation
the
really
warning.
didn't happen. So it didn't reach that level to me to say something terrible could happen and maybe you shouldn't have gone on the trip.
Why didn't
But
it
to
happen?
me, I don't know. I mean, I think that that's one of the things we need to look at. So two,
Rest assured, she's going to investigate herself. And much like everyone who investigates themselves, she's going to find nothing wrong.
investigations are taking place.
The
One
Blizzard
internal
strategy.
to the city, and that's the fire commission, because that's mandated by the city charter. So the commission will hire an outside entity to examine everything, the pre-deployment, why were firefighters sent home, all of that
They should hire Doge. I hear they're doing a really good job.
should have taken place that didn't. And then also the governor has contracted with the Fire Safety Research Institute, which is a national institute that investigated what happened in the fires in Maui. So everything that happened, including that, needs to be examined. But I will tell you that I felt absolutely terrible not being here for my city
No,
and
she
not
didn't.
being here for my family, who was impacted by the fires as well. And so when I say it was a mistake, absolutely, the idea that I was not present was very painful.
This is just the perfect encapsulation of everything wrong with these politicians. She's the elected leader of the city, but basically has zero idea on how anything is operating underneath her.
Also,
the
zero
only thing she
accountability.
seems to be focused on is what the Democrats in D.C. are offering her, which is likely just padding for her resume and her next step in her political career. It's absolutely ridiculous for her to call for investigations into why she went partying in Ghana after everybody in L.A. knew about the historic winds on their way that week. Even after her
How dare they send her to a party? She is the victim here. Those fires negatively impacted her because it makes her look bad. She didn't lose anything in those fires. She didn't lose anyone in those fires. A lot of people did, but she looks bad in the media, and it ruined her party in Ghana. How dare they attack her?
Her party has been nonstop crying over climate change. She now thinks that trip that she apparently doesn't regret going on, we now need to pay for people to figure out who holds the blame because somebody should be fired or forced to resign, but apparently it's just not her. And it's not just her that needs to resign, as California burned years before, burned in January, and will likely burn again as Governor Newsom continues to ignore actually following through on wild
Yeah, like I said, long history of this. To say that there were no warnings other than the entire history of California is ridiculous.
fire preparation, as he seems more focused on spending $9.5 billion, with a B, on health care for undocumented individuals,
What?
making up nearly 1/3 of the state's deficit. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom is termed out, so he can't run for governor again, and I personally think the wildfire response, combined with his response to homelessness, completely ends his presidential ambitions. So what this really comes down to is, who is going to become governor in late 2026, as the entire state is plagued by lawlessness. The Riverside County Sheriff, Chad Bianco, had previously announced he was changing teams and becoming a Trump supporter.
Hello, California. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. You know, for the past 30 years, I've been doing
He's switching side, boys. Is it real, or is he just doing that so he can get the votes? We'll find out.
everything I could to
I will say, solid mustache. Solid salt and pepper mustache. Love it. When I get old, I want that mustache.
keep our community safe by arresting criminals and putting them in jail and putting them in prison, keeping them out of our neighborhoods. For the last 5 years, I've been very critical about our governor for slashing our budgets from corrections, for letting prisoners out early, for closing our prisons. I've been critical of our state legislature for passing laws to make it harder to put people in prison. I've been critical for their changing laws that let prisoners out early. And I've been critical for our attorney general for seemingly not caring about crime and really being an embarrassment to law enforcement.
I don't know if I would vote for him. Look at his collar. 4 stars. He's only a 4-star character. We want 5-star characters. We want characters that'll carry our team through the game.
Law enforcement, apparently, if you listen to our governor, is systemically racist. If you listen to our legislature, our laws are systemically racist. Our judicial system is systemically racist. All of these people that are being put in jail are because of law enforcement bias and DA bias and all of these things. And so they let them out. They give them food. They give them housing. They give them money. They give them drugs and alcohol now. I got to be honest, I'm getting
How do
tired.
you give them drugs?
I'm getting tired. And I'm wondering if I'm having a change of heart and deciding that, you know what, maybe I've been wrong. And I think I'm going to change teams. I know it's going to make some of you angry. I know that you're going to be mad at me, but I'm going to change teams.
Yeah, that's your problem. Thinking that there's teams. There is no team. The coach of the team doesn't care about the team. They care about themselves. They're only pretending to care about the team to get what they want, and then they're going to abandon you. That's not a team. You need to be in it for you and what you think is right and just in the world. You need to follow what you feel needs to change. Don't think about it as Republican and Democrat. Think about it as good people versus the 1%, because they're the problem in this country. They're the problem in every country. It's not race. It's not gender. It's not religion. It's the 1% constantly with their boot on the neck of everyone else. That's why they're the 1%, because they take from everyone else and make sure they can't become the 1%.
I think it's time that instead of letting them out of jail and giving them alcohol and drugs and everything else, I think it's time we put a felon in the White House. Trump 2024, baby.
Fast forwarding to today, Bianco has announced he's running for governor.
Oh, he switched before Trump okay, that changes things. I thought he was switching because Trump was in charge and he thought it was his best chance. If he did it before Trump, okay.
Announce our campaign to be the next governor of California.
Not saying I agree with him, but if he did it before Trump was elected, at least that makes it feel genuine.
And if you've been watching this channel for a while, especially since during all the lockdowns, when Governor Gavin Newsom announced he wanted local law enforcement to crack down on violations, just not when the governor opens up his winery to dine indoors with his friends, but Bianco actually announced he and his deputies weren't going to enforce any of those lockdown orders on the citizens, which honestly, based on that alone, he's got my vote. Now, it would be difficult for anybody in law
That was
enforcement to
easy.
win in California, but all the preliminary polling from the left indicates their frontrunner is former Vice President Kamala Harris, and her running on her experience as DA and the top cop against crime pretty much cancels out any anti-law enforcement angles they could use against Bianco. So hopefully Los Angeles residents and California residents as a whole finally come to their senses and vote for somebody that actually could make California great again. But if you appreciate my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's
That guy's got a long road ahead of him, but good luck to him. I don't live there. I can't vote. I don't care. But he seems like he cares a lot, and I don't know the other side as well. But if Kamala's involved, I assume it's going to be a disaster. Who knows? Maybe he'll be a disaster. But he might be the disaster California needs, because they've already been through one, and it didn't work out so well. Maybe the other side will be a different one. World is a changing, man. Honestly, if you like the Decoy Voice, give him a like and sub. If you like me, give me a like and sub. Check me out on Twitter. I'm in the back half of becoming an affiliate. Every follow counts, and I'd appreciate it. Stay safe, stay hydrated, take care of yourself, and take care of somebody else. In this day and age, we need it, man. Mwah.